Hey guys, it's Blake, and today we are going to be processing 4x5 film at home. This video is not intended to be showing you the best way of developing your film at home, but I'm just showing you the way that I like to do it and how easily it can be done in your kitchen sink with the right equipment. You will need, of course, your 4x5 film, a tank to process the film in, such as an SP445 or a Patterson tank with a special 4x5 reel. You will need your chemicals for developing the film. You will need containers for measuring and mixing those chemicals. In addition to that, thermometers are extremely helpful for making sure that your chemistry is being developed at the proper temperature. A timer is really helpful, making sure that your film is being processed for the proper amount of time. A changing tent allows you to remove the film from the holder and put it into your tank in a completely light-tight process. And I also recommend using gloves so that during that process you do not get any fingerprints on your film or scratches. Before we go to mixing our chemistry, I like to make sure that I can get my film from the holder here into the tank. In order to do so, we are going to be setting up our changing tent. Once this tent is set up, I stick my arms inside and I am removing my film from the holder here. And that's gonna look something like this. So we have the film, two pieces, one on each side. And as I pull up my dark slide, you will see the film exposed. I'm doing this in the tent and basically with my gloves on so I don't get fingerprints or scratches on the film, I'm trying to get under this lip right here to get that piece of film just to get off a little bit. And I'm gonna carefully pull it out. And once I do that, I'm gonna carefully set the holder aside. And I'm going to grab the actual plastic tank, basically reel for my 4x5 tank here. Knowing that the emulsion side is out, with the notch in the top corner here, I am going to very carefully slide it into my reel. In the tent, I'm going to make sure that the film is going under each of these little lips here, so that way it's completely flat. Once I have film on both sides of the plastic here, I can slide it into the tank. The tank does take 2 of these and it's about 16 ounces of chemicals, which is fantastic. So now that everything is in our tank to be developed, we are going to start mixing our chemistry. I like to do the loading of the film in the tank way ahead of time. That way, if it takes longer than I anticipate, I don't have to stress on my chemicals going cold. So I do have my C41 kit in front of me. With each of these chemicals, you see here, typically a developer A, B, and C, as well as a Blix/fixer A, B, and C. With water, you are going to be mixing each of these parts of, let's say, developer to create your overall developer chemistry. I usually like to develop quite a few sheets of film at once. That way, if I go through a period of time where I'm not shooting as much, my chemicals don't have to sit around for too long, and that way they don't become exhausted just from sitting there. And I'd always recommend storing your chemicals in a cool, dark place. Now that we have our chemicals all warm and the film is loaded in the tank, we are ready to actually start processing the film itself. So I'm going to take my developer here and my measuring container here. Now I'm going to make sure that I have 16 ounces of chemicals. I've got 16 ounces of chemicals. With my thermometer, I'm going to check on the temperature. Perfect. So my developer is now at 102 degrees. So I'm going to start by actually rinsing my film. So I have my film container here. I'm going to loosen the vent, remove it completely, loosen the fill and drain, the fill and the vent. The water goes in here. This is just for air. So what I'm going to do now is run it through a 1 minute long wash. And I want this water to be relatively close to the temperature of the developer. Perfect. While this is being done, I also have my timer going in the background. Went through the wash for a minute. I'm gonna pour it out. Now we're gonna run it through the developer. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put my funnel in the fill and drain, and what I'm gonna do is pour it in this way. Got a little messy, that's all right. And so now that the chemicals are in the tank, I'm gonna squeeze the sides And while I'm doing that, I'm gonna tighten the vent so that the air is being released. I'm keeping it tight. And then I am gonna tighten my fill and drain. And for the first 15 seconds, I'm actually gonna be constantly agitating. And I'm hitting on the counter just to make sure that there's no air bubbles. I'm gonna then agitate it every 30 seconds for 4 times. I can rinse out this, just make sure it's extra diluted so I don't have chemicals going down the sink. I can then use it for my Blix. So that's gonna be our fixer. Perfect, just above 15, should be 16. And this one doesn't need to be nearly as hot. I'm just gonna wait for the developer to be done. Agitating when I need to. Hitting on the counter to make sure there's no air bubbles. And so now that my chemistry is done, I'm gonna make sure I use paper towel so I can actually grip my tank. I'm gonna take the cap there, there's the vent, there's the fill. Pour it back inside this container because I can use this later on. And as soon as that goes down, I am going to very, very quickly put my Blix in here. Now I'm gonna start my timer for 6.5 minutes. And similar to before, I am gonna start by closing off the vent and then the fill and drain side. And then I'm gonna quickly agitate it. Perfect. I often have in my sink a container with hot water, so that way every so often I am putting the chemicals into that hot water, keeping it at a regulated temperature. But while that is going through the Blix, I am going to do what I did before. I'm going to rinse out this container, make sure there's no excess chemicals. Remember to agitate for the Blix as well. While the Blix is going on, I'm going to take my stabilizer. This one is at room temperature actually, 72 degrees. All right. In between this Blix phase, there is a 3-minute wash that this film will go through. And while that wash is happening, it's basically rinsing the film from the leftover fixer. And then after the wash, we will then go into the actual stabilizer itself. The stabilizer acts as a drying agent and helps remove any water spots from the film. Once the stabilizer is complete, all you need to do is hang dry your film and you will be ready to print or scan from there. So that was a little bit of my process of developing 4x5 film at home. It was not intended to be a super detailed A to Z how-to video, but hopefully by watching this video you will find some of it useful. Maybe you will be able to start processing your own film in your kitchen sink. From this point on, I will then go to my scanning, and I'm not gonna show you a video on that. I will say that I am currently using a DSLR and negative supply products, and I am extremely happy with how this is working so far. Thank you to the Ridge wallet for sponsoring this video. They sent me this wallet a couple months back and I was immediately impressed. I honestly didn't quite realize how much I was missing out with my old leather wallet. Whether I'm going down the street just to get a couple snacks before the trail or I'm on a road trip, it is incredibly nice having peace of mind. Not only that, the wallet has RFID technology, so I don't have to worry about my information being stolen, but they also use military grade materials, so I know that this wallet can handle some harsh conditions. The last thing I want to worry about is my money while I am on vacation or I'm on a trip and I'm just trying to make photographs. So thank you so much to the Ridge. If you'd like to buy one of these wallets yourself, go to ridge.com/bjfilms. There is a link in the description. Use code BJFilms for 10% off your first purchase. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you guys soon.